Some of you know that we had done a search and we'd had a top candidate and we're actually negotiating a contract. At the last moment, his city made him an offer he could not refuse, a huge wage increase, and he doesn't have to move. So for the last 2 weeks, I have been looking for an interim city administrator because we're so close now to the budget. And I don't want to rush the decision on the city administrator. And been talking to Mr. Reid about the situation. And so what we have decided to do is to bring in an interim city manager to work particularly on the budget. I have asked Lamont Ewell to come here on Monday. There will be a meeting of the City Council. It's not scheduled yet. He's still talking to his colleagues. I've talked to the president. He seems to be enthusiastic. Lamont was originally a firefighter who came up the rank and file from Compton, became a chief of the fire department. We hired him as our chief of the fire department 13 days before the Oakland Hills fire. So we're glad that he was willing to come back. Hopefully nothing similar will happen when he comes back this time. He was our interim city manager when Craig Koshin left. I think it was Craig Koshin. Yeah. And then he was hired to be the permanent city manager in Durham, North Carolina. He went as the number 2 to San Diego, and then right after he came, the whole pension issue in San Diego happened, and the number 1 city manager left, and he was the city manager during the whole cleanup period. He went to Santa Monica. After that, when they switched to a strong mayor form of government, was the city manager for Santa Monica for about 5 or 6 years, was very well respected there, retired, and just recently, last year, came out of retirement to do a very similar stint for the city of Culver. He worked there for 90 days, worked on their budget, had to make large cuts. We have been spending the last few days talking to a wide range of people who worked with him. He has a wide range of experience as city manager. He has done what I'm going to be asking him to do to help us make some very difficult decisions and cuts. He knows the city already. He is a very, a very gentlemanly, but very firm and tough city manager. And I'm confident that he'll be an important addition at this time, given that we're about to start the budget process. And so as a result of that, we'll be releasing our options budget on Tuesday, but we wanted to make sure he was in place when we have the actual full-day budget retreat. So I want to thank the President Reid for working with me on this and agreeing to this decision.
Lamont Ewell is someone that I have the utmost respect for in his capacity to lead the city on an interim basis, given the difficult challenges that we as a city now find ourselves in. You know, he's been helpful to other cities in the past, particularly around budget issues, and I'm certainly he's going to be here and provide that same level of expertise as we begin our budget deliberations and have to make some real tough decisions that will come before us. So I'm real excited. Lamont is a very close friend of mine, and so I'm very happy when the mayor told me who was going to be her choice on the interim basis, and he's a good friend.
I had asked him to consider applying for city manager originally. We're looking for 2 kinds of city managers. Weren't sure which one would be available, either somebody fairly young, that was a number 2 in another city that would stay for a while, or somebody very experienced who would come for a couple of years, help us grow some people at the end of their career or out of retirement. And we'd actually asked Lamont when we started, and he turned us down because he didn't want to work that long, right? And then we went back to him and got him to agree to do a short stint. I knew that he had a love for the city, and you know that we were in this very interesting, it's a very tough time, but it's a time where there's a lot of hopes for Oakland, and you know, a lot of things when the recession's over are in place. And I said I really needed somebody who was experienced enough to make the cuts with the least amount of harm. And that was good at talking to people. So everybody, what I've tried to do over the last few years, and it's been tough. You got to remember, we've already cut 20% of the city budget, is to make sure people felt it was fair, and that we're all in this together. And it was my sense that he could do that. He's one of the people who's shown that he could do it in his past jobs in San Diego and this last stint in Culver City. And that, for me, that was really important. And because he already knew the city, and we're on such this crunch time now, that he was one of the few people who could just step in and do it. And so, and we really needed him. And so he told me he had to go talk to his wife, and then we had a little bit more conversation this week, and he said yes last night. I'm ready next Tuesday to give people what I call the budget with options, and that is with some very clear numbers and asking the council to make some very clear decisions before I commit to a line-by-line budget, right? Because that's a lot of work. So I need to know, for instance, do they want to save any of the federal funding? Should that go down, right? I need to know what their priorities would be, anything that we would save out of redevelopment. Obviously, there are some things that we have to save out of redevelopment. Should redevelopment funds totally go away? And then I need them to make a decision on PFERS. Sabrina, what else? And then there's just the budget, then the horrible cuts that we'll have to make beyond that, and what their preferences and what their priorities are. Then based on that, we'll come back with a line budget, what, 2-3 weeks?
There's an enormous amount of pressure on us now, given the deficit that we're facing and the hard choices that we will have to make. And so once we get what the mayor has promised us, we will review that and then begin to start the process. And so my office is working with the mayor's office on setting up a date where we can all get together and begin that earlier discussion on the budget and then go from there.